It's a really startling fact, but right now, countless retirees all over the country might be making a crucial error, one that could potentially cost them hundreds or even thousands of dollars in their hard-earned Social Security benefits. What's more, the clock is genuinely ticking on this. If you are already getting Social Security checks, or if you're making plans to file pretty soon, you need to know about a little-known deadline that's coming up fast on January 1st, 2025, which has a direct effect on the size of your monthly payment. We're talking about legitimate changes to the Social Security system that affect how much money lands in your bank account each month. The $2,400 figure isn't some random number pulled from thin air. It represents the real financial difference between those who understand these new regulations and those who don't. The Social Security Administration has implemented specific rules regarding benefit calculations, withdrawal strategies, and timing requirements that can make or break your retirement income. Many folks are learning about these changes too late after they've already lost out on money they were entitled to receive. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's changing, who's affected, and most importantly, what you need to do before December 31st to protect every dollar you've earned through decades of hard work. Let me be completely honest with you. When I first started researching what's happening with Social Security in 2025, I was overwhelmed by the amount of confusing information floating around online. Everyone seems to have a different opinion, and frankly, a lot of it is either outdated or just plain wrong. But after digging through the official Social Security Administration documents and talking to benefits advisors, I realized there are some genuine changes coming that every American receiving or about to receive Social Security needs to understand. And the reason January 1st matters so much is because certain decisions you make right now before the calendar flips to 2025 can have a lasting impact on your financial security for years to come. Here's what's really going on. The Social Security system operates on a very specific calendar, and many of the rules that govern your benefits are tied to annual deadlines that reset every January. When we talk about the $2,400 figure, we're looking at the potential difference in annual benefits that can occur based on timing decisions, withdrawal options, and understanding how the cost of living adjustments interact with your specific claiming strategy. This isn't about some new tax or penalty that suddenly appeared. Instead, it's about understanding the mechanics of how Social Security calculates your benefits and making sure you're positioned correctly before the new year begins. One of the biggest issues affecting retirees right now involves the rules around voluntary suspension of benefits. Not many people know this, but if you've already started collecting Social Security and you're between your full retirement age and age 70, you have the option to voluntarily suspend your benefits. Why would anyone want to do that? Because when you suspend benefits, your future monthly amount grows by roughly 8% per year, which is a guaranteed return you won't find anywhere else in today's economy. But here's the catch that trips people up. The rules around when you can request the suspension and when it takes effect are very specific. If you're thinking about suspending benefits to let them grow, you need to get that request submitted well before January 1st because of how the Social Security Administration processes these requests and applies them to your payment schedule. Then there's the matter of Medicare Part B premiums and how they interact with your Social Security check. Most people don't realize that your Medicare premium is automatically deducted from your Social Security payment each month. In 2025, Medicare Part B premiums are changing, and for some folks, this means a bigger chunk coming out of their monthly check. The standard Part B premium is going up, and if you're in one of the higher income brackets, you might be paying even more through what's called the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, or IRMAA. Now, here's where timing becomes crucial. If your income has dropped recently because of retirement, job loss, or other life changes, you might qualify for a reduction in your Hermes search charge. But you need to file an appeal with Social Security using Form SSA-44, and these appeals can take time to process. Getting this paperwork in before January means you're not paying the higher premium while waiting months for the appeal to go through. Another critical element that confuses so many people is the earnings test. If you're receiving Social Security before your full retirement age and you're still working, there's a limit to how much you can earn before Social Security starts withholding some of your benefits. In 2024, that limit is 22.20 seconds. But in 2025, it's going up slightly. However, if you're going to reach your full retirement age during 2025, there's a different, higher limit that applies only to the months before your birthday. The calculations here get complicated fast, and many people end up with surprise reductions in their checks because they didn't understand how their work income would affect their benefits. What makes this even trickier is that these withheld benefits aren't necessarily gone forever. Once you reach full retirement age, Social Security recalculates your benefit amount to account for the months when benefits were withheld, which means you eventually get that money back in the form of a higher monthly payment. But in the meantime, if you're counting on that Social Security check to cover your bills, and suddenly it's reduced or stopped because you exceeded the earnings limit, you could find yourself in a real financial bind. The timing of when you file for benefits relative to the new year can also impact your total lifetime benefits in ways most people never consider. Social Security calculates your benefit amount based on your highest 35 years of earnings adjusted for inflation. If you're still working and you had a particularly good year in 2024, that income won't be factored into your benefit calculation until after your earnings are officially reported to Social Security, which typically happens after you file your taxes. This means if you're planning to claim benefits in early 2025, you might be leaving money on the table by not waiting until your 2024 earnings are properly recorded in the system. On the flip side, if you had a low earning year in 2024, that would replace one of your higher earning years in the calculation. You might want to file before that income gets added to your record. Understanding where you stand requires looking at your actual earnings history, which you can access through your My Social Security account online. Let's talk about spousal benefits for a moment, because this is another area where timing around the new year can make a significant difference. If you're married and your spouse is receiving Social Security, you might be entitled to a spousal benefit worth up to 50% of your spouse's full retirement age benefit amount. But the rules around when you can claim spousal benefits and how much you'll receive depend on your age, your own work history, and when your spouse filed for their benefits. If your spouse is planning to file for benefits soon, the timing of their claim affects your options. Similarly, if you're divorced, but you were married for at least 10 years, you might qualify for benefits based on your ex-spouse's work record. These divorced spousal benefits have their own set of rules and timing considerations that can affect how much you receive and when. There's also something called the file and suspend strategy that used to be much more popular before Congress changed the rules back in 2015. While most of those loopholes have been closed, there are still some situations where understanding the interaction between your benefit claim and your spouse's claim can optimize your household's total Social Security income. For couples where one spouse earns significantly more than the other, coordinating your claiming strategies can mean the difference between maximizing your lifetime benefits and leaving substantial money on the table. And because Social Security decisions are often permanent once you get past that first 12 months after claiming, getting this right from the start is essential. Now, I want to address something that causes a lot of confusion and, frankly, a lot of worry. You might have seen headlines about Social Security running out of money or going bankrupt. Let me clear this up. Social Security is not going bankrupt. What is true is that the Social Security trust funds are projected to be depleted in the early 2030s if Congress doesn't take action. But even if the trust funds run out, Social Security would still be able to pay about 80% of scheduled benefits from ongoing payroll tax revenue. That's obviously not ideal, and it's a real concern. But it's very different from the program disappearing entirely. The reason I mention this is because some people are rushing to claim benefits early because they're worried Social Security won't be there later. In most cases, claiming early results in a permanently reduced benefit amount, and that reduction lasts for the rest of your life. Unless you have serious health concerns or an immediate financial need, claiming early out of fear that Social Security will disappear is usually not the best financial decision. The cost of living adjustment, or COLA, is another piece of this puzzle that affects your bottom line. Each year, Social Security benefits are adjusted to keep pace with inflation based on changes in the Consumer Price Index. For 2025, the COLA increase has been announced, and while it provides some additional income, it might not keep pace with the actual increases you're seeing in your personal expenses, especially when it comes to healthcare costs. The COLA applies to your benefit amount, but remember, if your Medicare Part B premium increases by more than your COLA increase, you could actually see your net Social Security check go down. This is where understanding the hold harmless provision becomes important. This rule protects most Social Security recipients from having their net benefit reduced due to Medicare premium increases, but it doesn't apply to everyone, particularly if you're new to Medicare, if you're a high-income earner subject to IRMAA, or if you're not having your Medicare premium deducted from your Social Security check. For those of you who are still working and paying into Social Security, you might be wondering how much longer you need to work to maximize your benefits. Social Security uses a formula that weights your highest earning years more heavily, so continuing to work and replace lower earning years in your calculation can boost your benefit amount. But there's a point of diminishing returns. If you've already got 35 years of strong earnings in your record, working additional years might not increase your benefit as much as you'd expect. On the other hand, if you have years in your record that show zero earnings, perhaps because you took time off work to raise a family or for other reasons, even just 1 or 2 more years of work can make a surprisingly meaningful difference in what your final monthly check will be. It just goes to show why it is so incredibly important to actually log in and look at your personal earnings record. Before you make any final claiming decisions,